Hey folks, how you doing? My name's Dave McRae. So in this video, I want to tackle a topic that has come up during some live streams in the past. And as is often the case when a juicy topic comes up during a live stream, one that I think would make a great standalone video, I like to dedicate some time and do a video on the topic. So that's what I'm doing here today. So chances are, if you are a loyal follower of mine and you watch everything I do, you probably are familiar with some of the arguments and things I'm about to say here today. But like I said, nonetheless, I wanted to get a video specifically dedicated to this topic out there, and that's what I'm doing. Also, let me say these three things. Watch the whole video before you jump into the comment section and start ripping me a new one or, whatever the case is, because, sometimes it's obvious when people will comment and they're commenting just by reading the headline and not actually watching the video. I just think it's a good habit to get into. I know people get really excited about a topic and they want to get their stuff in there really quick, and I totally understand that. And fellow content creators here on YouTube can totally get what I'm saying, that sometimes you're like, well, if you watch the whole video, you would have, you know what I'm saying? So just kind of, I think that's a good habit to get into with any video on any channel. And also, two, let me say that I am a casual Scream fan. I'm not a diehard. I really only like that first Scream movie. I don't hate any of the others. They're just kind of diminishing returns for me at the end of the day. And, but I will say, and I do agree with everybody who has said this, it is one of the most consistent franchises within the slasher subgenre in terms of quality. They have yet to have their Halloween Resurrection, their Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, their Freddy's Dead, their Jason Goes to Hell. And I do know that those movies have their fans, but the general consensus is those are the real stinkers of the franchise, and Scream has yet to have that. I mean, if Scream 3 is the weakest in your franchise, you're doing pretty good. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that there isn't one coming down the pipe, but I'm just saying that, they're doing pretty good. And also, number three, I think I'm up to three now, right? Number three is, I do believe there is a high probability that Neve Campbell will return to the franchise as Sidney Prescott. I do think they're going to back that Brinks truck up to her house, and it's going to be a direction for her character that she's going to be passionate about, and yada, yada, yada. I do think there's a high probability that that will happen. Having said that, the question is, should she come back? The question is, does it matter? The question is it the best thing for the Scream franchise? Now, I realize those are three different questions, but I think they're all connected really at the end of the day. And I don't think it is necessary. And that's primarily because of where the Scream franchise is right now. Now, obviously, we don't know what Christopher Landon would like to do with Scream 7. We don't know the trajectory of where it's going to go and what's going to happen and what new life he will or won't inject into it. Who knows? So ask me a year from now and my tune may change. But as of right now, based on what we know in the 6-movie arc and where Sidney was left at the end of Scream 5, I don't think it's necessary. I think Sidney Prescott actually had the perfect send-off for her character at the end of Scream 5. The symbolism, the nuances of the cinematic language within that scene between Sam and Gale and Sidney, I thought was perfect at the end of the movie. And I'm going to jump over to the other screen here and read you a bit of that scene to kind of illustrate my point. So let's do that now. So let's go over to the other screen, and there it is. We've got Sam, Gale, and Sidney, and this is how it goes. Sam says, "Sidney, Gale, thank you both for everything." Then she turns to Sidney and says, "Are you going to be all right?" And Sidney says, "I'll survive. I always do." And Sam says, "You were right about not running." And Sidney's like, "Sorry about that." And Sam turns to Gale and says, "How are you doing?" And Gale says, "Ask me in a few days, but at least I know what I'm going to write about." And Sam says, "What's that?" And Gale says, "Not this. Those fuckers can die in anonymity. Maybe something about a good man who was still the sheriff here once." And Sidney nods and smiles warmly. "I'd like to read that story," she says. And Gale smiles and nods back. Sam turns to Sidney and says, "Can I ask you a weird question?" And Sidney says, "Yeah." And Sam says, "Am I going to be okay?" Sidney pauses, pondering, and then says, "Eventually." So there you have it. There you have it. So that, and funny enough, having read that through, I actually kind of feel it's the perfect send-off for Gale as well. I didn't feel that Gale was particularly utilized all that effectively in Scream 6. I think you could have just taken her out and it wouldn't have made a difference. But anyway, we're talking about Sydney. But that scene is the perfect send-off for her, because remember, she didn't come back because of Sam and Tara. She came back because Dewey was on the phone, Gale, the whole thing, right? That's the core. That's where her, if you want to have Sydney have allegiance to anybody, that's where her allegiance lies. Not to Sam, not to Tara. Sam is not her daughter, even though she is the daughter of Billy Loomis. It's not her daughter. So there is no allegiance there, really, at the end of the day. Now, of course, you could say, well, look what they went through in Scream 5 together, sort of. You could totally have her start to have allegiance. Sure, you can write anything. You can write anything and go through a bunch of mental gymnastics to have it make sense. But as I often say here on the channel, when it comes to characters and story, it has to be properly motivated. I have to believe that these characters are making these decisions for the reasons that they apparently are. And Scream, although it is a horror franchise and it's a slasher franchise and they do take creative liberties here or there, it's not so off the wall and whimsical that you can have characters make decisions arbitrarily and we just buy it. You know what I mean? It has to be properly motivated. And I feel that this moment between Sam and Sydney, the future and the past, is a great passing of the torch. I mean, that line right there, am I going to be okay? And when she takes a moment and says, eventually, the symbolism around that, the cinematic language in that scene, the nuances of what's not being said, but what is totally being said in that eventually, what that means is huge. It's huge. That is the passing of the torch. That eventually means you've got this, girl. You're strong. You can do it. Don't fall for it. Be strong. All that, like that. It's all you, like, do you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of weight behind that eventually. It is the passing of the torch. We don't need to see Sydney again. We don't need to see her again. I understand that she is the Laurie Strode and the Jamie Lee Curtis. I get all that. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, at the beginning of the video, there is a high probability that she's going to come back. And that doesn't mean that the writers couldn't figure out a way that feels properly motivated to bring her back. But the only ways I can think of off the top of my head are Stu. Okay, and that's not even an angle that I particularly like. I actually like the fact that Stu died at the end of the first movie with a television on his head, and you leave it at that. That's me, but then again, I'm not a screamer. I'm not a ghost head. I'm not a diehard Scream fan. I don't have a strong emotional, nostalgic attachment to the franchise, so I understand that maybe that's why. I don't know, but I think it sort of undermines Stu's death at the beginning of the that film. But could you get into a writer's room and weave your magic and figure out a way where we all go, well, I guess. Sure. Would that bring her back? Maybe. I mean, it is something from the past. She would have more of an allegiance in her. I believe her eyebrows would perk up a little bit if she found out Stu was alive. Sure. And then you bring Sam and Tara in there and then she feels that she's got to come back. Okay. Maybe that's a way to do it. Or Gale dies. Gale's in trouble, right? She's the last remaining original. She's in trouble. That definitely would bring her out. I believe that. But I don't believe that Sam and Tara necessarily would. I don't believe that. And where we are right now with the franchise, we're moving forward with Sam and Tara, maybe even just Sam, because Jenna Ortega is going to get really busy, is already really busy. She might even be killed in the next one, potentially, who knows? And I think we should hand off, Sam, played by Melissa Barrera, is a little overshadowed by Jenna Ortega's star power. And I think it would be great to give the reins to Sam, to give the reins to Melissa Barrera and take it. You know what I mean? You don't need Sydney there at all, really. Her arc is complete, really, at the end of the day, because Ghostface is many different Ghostface, or many different individuals, many different people. There isn't an allegiance to one individual that keeps coming back, like is coming back for her. You know what I mean? Like how, Michael Myers was going after Laurie Strode. You know what I mean? There's nothing there. It's different people that are more so connected to the lives of the individuals that play that we're currently sort of invested in. It's Sam and Tara and who they're connected to and all that. It has nothing to do with Sydney. And that's why we didn't really miss Sydney in Scream 6, really, at the end of the day, because it is irrelevant to have her there when the story isn't really connected to her in a really sort of profound, deeper way. You don't need her. So I don't think it really matters if she comes back, as long as you continue to write stories surrounding these new characters where things are properly motivated and it makes sense. And but Sydney coming back, Gail's the only one in my mind that could bring her back. But then does that even make sense? Why don't you just kill Gail off? And Sydney just doesn't hear about it, or she would hear about it after the credits roll on the news or something, and that's it. Listen, Neve Campbell, great Canadian gal from Guelph, Ontario, which is only about a half an hour from me. This isn't an attack on Neve Campbell. I'm thinking about story, structure. Is this properly motivated? Does it make sense for the future of the Scream franchise? Or am I going to be okay? Eventually. There it is. There's the torch. There's the passing. It's not just the word eventually. It's, like I said, it's everything that means. It's everything what that means to Sam and what that means to the future of Scream and the franchise and all that kind of stuff. And I just think that's a great moment for her. Again, like I said, yes, you could get into a writer's room and write an even better send-off for her. Okay, sure. But you might run into a Halloween H2O and a Halloween Resurrection situation, where you have, Halloween H2O is the perfect send-off, the chopping off the head. Oh, that was it. What a redemption arc. There it is. Yeah, woo, woo. All right, yeah. Then you have Halloween Resurrection where she's kissing Michael in the fucking mask and falling for, you don't want that. You don't want that. I don't want us to look back at that Scream 5 and go, it should have just stopped at eventually. Yeah, it should have been eventually. That was perfect. That was perfect. That was such a nice moment. And Gail was going to write this book about not the crimes, but about I was going to say Stewie, about Dewey. And that was really great. It was such a nice moment for both of them. That's it. They can ride off into the sunset now. There it is. That's it. And maybe there's a scene in Scream 7 or something where you see that book by Gail on the shelf all about Dewey or something. Oh, that's a cute little nod or something. But to bring Sydney back as a main protagonist and somehow to be involved in the fight, there has to be reasons for her to come back. It has to be properly motivated. I don't necessarily believe that she would risk her life and her, and because she's got children now. She's got children now, and that maternal instinct is going to kick in. She's going to make a decision. I mean, she may carry a gun on her, sure, because she's worried about Ghostface coming back. Fine. But I mean, unless it comes to her, is she going to go and seek it out? And that's sort of I have trouble believing where we are right now with the Scream franchise and where we've left these characters that she would do that. She's a mom now. She's a wife. She's got a job somewhere. I mean, I don't know if she'd put herself and her family in that kind of danger. Again, that doesn't mean you can't write something where it does make sense, but at the moment, I'm just worried because of how things usually go with this type of thing. And usually, especially in horror films, slasher subgenre, the motivation is weak. And it isn't justified. And we all kind of go, well, I guess, is usually what happens in these types of things. Doesn't mean that they can't do it, but I'm skeptical and I don't really think it matters anymore. I think you've got a strong ending for her character right there, really, at the end of the day. I really do. But I do understand that money talks, money talks, and she will likely come back to the franchise. I just hope it's a good arc for her. It's not a dumb cameo. It's not shoehorned in to go, look, I'm Sydney. Here I am. No, it makes sense. I think what you have with Tara and Sam is strong enough. I don't even think you need to make another Scream, really, to be honest with you. And if you follow me, you know why. But you have that now. Let them go. Let them flourish on their own. Let them go. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel about it anyway. Anyways, folks, my name's Dave McRae. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. I've also launched YouTube membership here on the channel. The link is in the description if you want to get in on some exclusive perks like a Halloween-only show, a horror movie nights watch-along, a members-only Q&A, badges, emojis, polls, exclusive images, all that kind of stuff. My link to my YouTube membership is in the description. Check it out, folks, because I think there's some stuff in there that you may be interested in. If you want to follow follow me on social media, you can. There are my links right there. Twitter, or X, I guess it's now called. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. That'll do it for me. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Cheers.